Welcome to Sketchy Ideas, the live point counterpoint video podcast where we illustrate and debate concepts surrounding leadership, business, personal achievement in a way that may make you think twice before you implement that new idea you just learned about all on the internet. Welcome, I'm Michael Rampolla.
And I am Brad James.
And we are your hosts for episode 75 of Sketchy Ideas, the first of 2022. Yay. Yay. Oh my.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
There it is. What are we going to talk about today? Today is a good day because today we're actually going to do something we used to do, I think, a little more often back in the early days of the show. We're going to just go behind the curtain, tear the curtain right off the rod, and we're going to show you how we do what we do. We're going to, what I'm calling, build in the open. We're going to talk about what our plans are for the coming sets of episodes and talk about guests we might want to bring on and figure out how we're going to do all of that. And we're going to let you watch while we do it. But before we do all of that, we should probably tell you why we're here. And it's absolutely because of our great sponsors. So, Brad, who's one of them?
Yeah, so it's the new year. Means you probably, if you didn't spend your time doing any strategic planning, that's okay. You still have some time. But specifically in the first quarter of every year, the main thing that you should be thinking about is how you're going to generate sales for your business that year. It's very important. Without sales, you don't get the money. And sometimes we don't know how to execute in a scalable fashion, specifically doing something with conversion marketing. So if you have questions about that, you're trying to get that done, you don't know what that means, do me a favor, hit up my friend Erin over at Cream City Marketing at erin@creamcitymarketing.com. Set up a conversation. She's going to take you through. She's going to ask you a bunch of questions about your business, get a handle on it, and then work with you to put together a plan for 2022 to hit those goals. So again, that's erin@creamcitymarketing.com, and she'll talk to you there.
Thank you. And Sketchy Ideas is also powered by Spirity. If you have an annual plan for 2022, you're already ahead of the game. Now, if all you have is an annual plan and you haven't broken it down into quarterly goals and weekly milestones and targets and daily prioritized lists of things that need to get done, you might not be as far ahead as you need to be. It's important that you take the tactical and the strategic and bridge the two together and don't just plan for the long run. Have that long-term vision in mind and work on the day-to-day to achieve it. Getting all that lined up is not always easy, but it certainly is something that we can accomplish together. Reach out to us at spirity.com. We will help you get that vision clarity, get the alignment, and the daily prioritized things that need to get done that are going to help you accomplish your most important goals for this year. Spirity.com. All right, and here we are. So By the way,
I want to start this year off by saying if you have been watching us, now this is year 3, and you haven't hit up any of these people we brought on or done any of the planning, or you've just shown up to the show, that's great. We love having you. But you don't learn you don't make goals or achieve those goals just by listening and inputting, right? Like just by receiving passively. You actually have to go do. So if you haven't talked to Michael, or you haven't talked to Erin, or you haven't talked to me, or you haven't talked to any of these people, just a thought, you might want to take a little action. You know, last year we talked about how resolutions aren't real and they're bad, but like take some action. Just a thought. Just a thought. Just a thought. You know.
Just thinking out loud here, but you know, if you don't do things, you'll accomplish. It's the thing. Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm glad that we have maintained our cadence and maintained our consistency on this, because it means that many more chances for people to say, you know, I really should. And hopefully one of those shoulds turns into the do. And when it does, hey, we're here for you. Please let us know. That's why we're here. We want you to be better, and we know we get better when we do this stuff and talk to each other and work with our experts. So we want you to have that same opportunity. Speaking of experts, I didn't mean to segue, but hey, look what I just did. speaking of experts, Brad and I were talking about what we have for goals for this show in the next quarter. And Brad was ready. Brad goes, a guest every week. And I'm like, that sounds great. Who? It's like, where do we start? And does Elizabeth know? Because that's not just something that just happens, right? People who put on shows like this or infinitely more professional endeavors, it takes a lot of effort to get people onto your show, right? So
infinitely more professional endeavors.
You know what I'm not saying we don't have quality productions. I'm just saying, like, we're a crew of 3 plus, right? Am I wrong?
I don't know.
Elizabeth,
I'm
I can't
just
tell if
throwing it
she's
out there
not
'cause
shaking
it's
her head
funny.
against me or for me. Am I wrong? No, or am I right? Like, I don't even, I can't.
think you're right.
Okay. Like, I think we do an amazing job with our resources. Like, I do that, period. And I think it's good that we can show that you can do a lot with not a lot of resources. I also know that if we're going to bring on a guest every week without bringing on any more people onto our crew, we need to create processes and get really efficient and have a plan and not just hope that it all happens. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So not maybe infinitely more professional. How about more resources? I guess maybe that's what I'm saying. Which this may become a model for for lean and efficiency and all that other good stuff. Anyway, I'm over rotating. Brad, where did you come up with the idea of a guest a week? Like, where did that? Because I asked, and you just like you had been thinking about this. That wasn't a random idea.
It came from the fact that I've listened to a bunch of our episodes and I'm sick of hearing my voice.
Me too. I am also sick of hearing your voice.
Exactly.
So we're in agreement.
No, honestly, yeah, we're in agreement. No, it came from the fact that I think one of the things that you and I, in talking to some of the people who listen to this show, I think we bring a lot of value, but I also think it would be worthwhile to bring some different perspectives and maybe some slightly different approaches. You and I both know a ton of people who could add value to our audience, and that's the point that I think we determined, especially because if we get those people we know relaxed and talking in a way that we work, we get even more value from it because it becomes less about a pitch or less about the theory or less about that stuff and more about, hey, let's actually get into the nitty gritty, have real conversations, have transparency. Like you and I have talked about this prior is, going into the last quarter of last year, right? Like the accountability versus empathy and then the transparency around that. Those are like 3 themes for me this year that I'm trying to figure out how to capitalize on. And what better way to do that for our audience than to bring the people who we work with and listen to ourselves, as well as some of the people we've met who we don't necessarily like. What they do is extremely valuable and we've seen it, but it doesn't necessarily get brought to the forefront because those individuals don't necessarily know how to do what we do. So
I like that. I like that. So basically let's leverage the platform that we've spent these 75 episodes building and get more new voices in front of more good people.
Sounds about right.
I like it. Cool. Okay, so I want to grab those themes that you just dropped because we know that those are good. So I can spell accountability, transparency, empathy. So what I'm doing, and I got to remember to be meta today. What I'm doing is I'm capturing 2 sides of things. One side is here's some things that we like to talk about or some things that we'd like to talk about more, themes. And also, here's some people that we would like to hear from that may or may not line up with the theme. So I'm pulling both together and they may or may not cross over, but I want to capture both as they happen. So that's what I'm doing as I'm building this out. Somewhere along the lines of we're going to start talking process at some point. So I'm just going to put a little corner over here for process. So when process ideas come up, I've already got my process parking lot ready to grab those ideas. Because we're going to need something that is, because it's a process, by definition, it needs to be repeatable and measurable. So that we know that our process is accomplishing.
What episode is that again?
that's got to be in like the first dozen somewhere, because that was one of our originals. I feel like Elizabeth can source that up wherever we talked about the importance of processes and process building and frameworks and all that good stuff, right?
Right.
Hey, hi Leah, Happy New Year. Thank you. Nice
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So where do you want to go next? Do you want to talk about more things that we want to talk about, or do you have some guests in mind you want to drop? Like, start filling in our board here.
Well, I mean, if that's what we're going to go off of, you tell me, man.
Or go wherever you want to go. So I mean, here you go, folks. This is literally, we're building in the open. This is the planning show live. So, all right. So we had thrown out some big name guests, and you said, and one of the reasons that we've maintained this consistency, this every week, not grind is the wrong word. This every week
discipline.
That's the word. Thank you. Is because there are some guests, big names, etc., that are looking for the legitimacy of you having done this enough. And like 100 is the magic mark, I think, for some people. Is that right?
Yeah, we can double check that, but yes, that is the magic mark for certain guests.
Okay.
Big name people.
All right. So if you're doing something like what we're doing, there is a value to doing it more often, because some people are looking for that discipline, that longevity, the proof of your dedication. And we're at 75. I think that's proven something. Like you said, we're into year 3. I think that's big. I think it's a big deal. All right. So who's on your would love to get guest list?
Oh, we're really doing this? I didn't realize we were actually diving into the whole list.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Well, because here's the cool thing. Like, you never know who knows somebody, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. You want to talk theoretical? We can stay theoretical if you don't want to go there yet. That's fine.
I don't know if I want to spoil it, because then I feel like we're promising, and then if it doesn't happen, then I'm embarrassed.
Okay. That sounds like us, but that's okay. All right. Well, then talk about. Okay, so let's go into the process. How have the people that are on your list? Why are they on your list, regardless of who they are? Why are the guests that are on your list on your list? There we go. Let's do that.
Why are they on the list? One, because I want to learn from them directly. Like, I've read their books, I've done their stuff. It's helped. The thing is you have to understand that when you've got people and you're reading their books, they're talking to a larger audience, and so it's if you are digging into how to understand the best way to move forward, books are great. In person is better, because in person you can ask specific questions that are specific to what you want, right?
I like that. Okay, so asking who do I want to learn more from? Like, because there's the one idea, like, well, I already read their book. And your point is, yeah, that was part of them, but there's some aspect of that you want to go deeper on. So one way to think about who should be on your guest list is, who do you want to learn more from?
Right.
All right, cool. How else have you thought about this?
Selfishly, that's really the one. The other one is certain people I want to work with, not just learn from, but work with.
Okay, I like that. And what makes somebody you want to work with? Like, what puts them on that list?
Depends on the case, but there's opportunities there. Right?
Okay, so identify opportunities. So you see something, they may or may not see it, but you connecting with this person would be an opportunity to have a discussion about that opportunity.
Correct.
All right, what else? What else puts somebody on the list?
They've got a following.
Okay, I like that. And is that and so what is the value of somebody with a following as a guest? How does that enhance their brand, our brand?
Odds are if they have a following, they're going to share the episode, as long as it was a good episode, with their audience, and therefore it drives traffic, which gets into the whole Dream 100 thing that we've talked about in the past. We actually have a process for that, Elizabeth. I'm sure you know. Are you aware of that?
She's nodding.
Thumbs up.
Those that
Yes,
don't
no?
see her at home.
Yeah. Thumbs
Yes.
up. All right.
Okay.
So,
So extend
I mean,
marketing and
those are
traffic.
pretty big things. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
I mean, those are.
So
Why would you, Michael? Why would you want somebody?
I think I want somebody who, I mean, it's a little bit different. I want somebody with an engaging personality because, and I'll add to that as I say it, engaging personality and because of what we do on this show, someone who's easy to talk to. Somebody who knows what they do and is an expert in their field, but isn't always scripted and isn't always canned. Does that make sense? Right. Like you've seen some people who, wherever you see them and whenever you see them, they're basically just saying the same things because that's kind of like they've kind of got their script or whatever it is figured out. That's interesting. And it'd be cool to get some of those names, but I don't think that fits what we are doing and how we operate as well as somebody who would be easy to talk to because they have that personality and they have that comfort level with themselves and their own material.
Yes.
So somebody would have to be on somebody that goes on our guest list would need to fit those criteria. So I guess if I'm giving it as a bigger guideline, I'm gonna say who's a good fit. I would say for our style, because I'm also trying to, turn this into a list that's a set of questions that somebody else could use to do something similar, right? So who do you want to surround yourself with? Well, who do you want to learn more from? And who would you like to work with? But if you pitch them an idea, they wouldn't be interested. But if you pitch them a conversation, it opens the door. Who already has a following? There's value in that because you can extend your own network. I was just talking with one of my clients earlier today about hiring a salesperson, and I said, find somebody that already has a network in the market you're trying to pursue. I said that person is worth more as a salesperson than somebody with just pure sales skills. Somebody who already has relationships with your future clients. So that's who has a following. And who's a good fit for our style? Again, that's a culture fit in a sense. We want to have somebody who would work well with the half structured, mostly loose thing that we do here, the sketchy approach that we take. And I like that you said selfishly, because I think that's absolutely an important question that not enough leaders ask. Is what do I need out of this?
Right. Yeah.
Because if you want motivation and engagement, that's the way to do it. Make sure everybody on the team is selfish.
And this is counterintuitive, right? Like, keep in mind, this is specific to this. When you're talking about products, product design, service design, those types of things, you have to do what your customers want. But I think when you're talking about specifically generating content like this, or doing a show like this, the best way to get the most out of it for you and for your listeners or viewers is to be selfish.
Mm-hmm.
At least initially, until you can figure out some of the other things. So I want to harken back to like one of our first episodes that we ever did. Initially, why Michael and I did this is we knew we needed to get better at talking to people regularly and generating regular content. So for us, it was an exercise.
Yep.
Purely.
I would not have this much content if not for Brad saying we should start doing this, and then me just not saying no at any point. Like that's and there being a production process behind it. And I've said that to multiple people. I said if I didn't have a producer running the show, literally just all I have to do is show up, I would not be doing this every week. And I think that is, sidebar, a good criteria for a lot of professionals that they don't think about enough is how can I outsource as much as possible and set myself up to just do the one thing that I have to do, and in so doing actually remove the roadblocks that would deter me otherwise. Right. And the fact that there's two of us, there's that whole buddy accountability, like why you have a workout partner. Same idea. Like, well, he's going to be there. I don't want to leave him hanging. It's a 2-guy show. I should the layout would be awkward if there wasn't somebody in the other square. I should probably be. To a point, it's important to have that accountability.
And I think we've both done that to each other at some point in time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to that. So I think that the selfish idea, and from a be selfish standpoint, I like that from a guest list. Also, I think the be selfish can influence the process, because if you know that you're not going to do X, you need to make sure it's in your process that X gets done, whatever that is.
Right. Yep.
Right. And right now, what I know that works for this show is show up and do the show. So our process needs to include, and Brad and I talked about this very briefly in advance. I said, whoever is interacting with the guests in the first place, it would be ideally if it was into a fourth person. Right. Yep. Now, I'm not saying Elizabeth has a bunch more work to do. I'm just, from a design perspective, I want the person who's going to be our guest, when they show up for the show, to already know who they're talking to, whether it's me or Brad that they have a relationship with, or they've already talked to Elizabeth, our producer, that they have a friendly face when they walk in the virtual door. So from a guest experience standpoint, that's something that I have in mind, is how do I create a great guest experience that makes it easy for them to just show up and do the show? It makes it that much more likely that they'll have a good time doing it and be a great guest and say nice things about us. That.
Right. Or at least nice things about you.
Well, I mean, one or the other. It depends on who's being selfish. Easy for guests. So yeah, it's important that the guests have a great experience. And the few guests that we have had on, I know we started to build some of these processes, but I know a lot of people, and it comes up in sales, right? You're all about getting the deal and closing the deal. And then once you close the deal, you kind of mentally move on to the next deal. And there's that transition time where the relationship is really at risk. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So our show produces live. That's a good thing. It means the content's out there immediately, but there's all those secondary and tertiary channels we use. And it's important that our guests get content in a form they can use it. So if we're hoping to leverage their following, that we make it easy for them to do what they want to do with the content next, so that, that we're actually making it easy. That otherwise, if we miss that window, right? Let's say they're on another one tomorrow, we don't get them the stuff right away today, like we might miss our window. Right. So we need to have processes that are designed to take care of our guests first, so that we get more guests and we get the value out of our front end effort. And again, when you think about sales, think of it the same way. Once I close that deal, that is the start of the next part of the relationship. It's not the end of the effort. So That's what I'm thinking on that. But so what are some other, so being selfish, what are some other themes that you think we should talk about and explore more in the next 3 to 6 months?
In terms of what? Be more specific.
No, I mean, so right now, top of mind for you, you're seeing these ideas coming up in as you're keeping your ears open, you're seeing accountability, transparency, and empathy coming up more and more, right? These are things that people are talking about and wanting to learn more about and getting interested in. What else is trending in our business world right now, where understanding X is going to help a leader be more successful?
Yeah, it's a loaded question.
Fair enough.
I think there's going to be a whole bunch of supply chain stuff that has to be covered this year, and not just supply chain from goods, but services too. And what I mean by that is, talent pools, right? Like there's a couple people I'd like to bring on who focus on, finding personnel for their business. Nice. And it's less about relying on their existing experience and more about hiring the right culture fit or the right soft skills. Mm-hmm. And then just basically building a boot camp or building training, basically education into their job requirements on the first 3 months.
Love that.
And then it's a pass fail or that's graded. And then based on that, they move them where they need to go.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think, and that echoes the conversation I just had this morning with somebody who was working on their next hire. And absolutely, we had to identify the core few things that you can't train, and then hire for that. And then everything else, all your other talent dollars go into the back end.
And not only that, but the cost of it,
Right.
What it does, right? I think we're in this weird, that whole topic, like opening that one up is like a Pandora's box. It will be very, very like, it'll cause a lot of conflict or discussion, strong discussion, I think, again. Just
Okay,
like
so
the
I
last
think
time we talked about hiring.
so. I think that's good in the sense if we're building like a 12-week run here, then maybe that's an intentional place that we line up some people in a sequence where we don't try to do 3 hours in a half hour. We actually just do three episodes of something. I like that idea. I think another thing that I'm seeing is just, I mean, we've done kind of VUCA before, but the idea of, just greater need for adaptability. And there's probably a better term for it, but just the things are less predictable down the line. And therefore, how do I design what I'm doing to be more nimble? As opposed to just,
I think I'd call that problem solving, right? Like problem solving as a skill set is, it's not as apparent in most people these days. And I think it's something that when people are trying to bring on teammates or staff, you're seeing more and more small businesses come to light, right? But you're also seeing a lot of these small businesses, there's a ceiling because they can't train that. And that's not trained in education.
Right.
And we've talked about that before.
Absolutely. I think we can find some people who would be great to talk to that space. Got a couple of people I'm just thinking of right now who've done literally research into creativity skills and identifying where they come from and where they're used. And it's creativity is often seen as like sometimes like leadership, right? You either have it or you don't. But it's not like that. And you can, if you take a more intentional approach to it, there's something interesting there.
I mean, I'd also like to set up I think, again, back to the supply chain stuff. I think when people are learning things, I mean, you and I have talked about this too, where people are learning facts, figures, definitions, all that stuff, rather than understanding how they learn.
I like that.
And I think that that's something else that we probably should try and find a way to cover this year.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's really good.
Because now there's books, there's podcasts, there's videos, there's courses, there's in-person stuff, there's workshops, right? Like determining how you learn best. And learning is not just learning the theory. Learning, in my mind, also includes the application of that theory.
Absolutely.
Which ties into the results
creativity
and the accountability. So that's where if you're watching this show right now, I'm very uncomfortable because this is a very uncomfortable topic to be doing out in the open for me.
I appreciate your left-hand column there. Thanks for being transparent. And folks, thanks again. So we literally just jumped in and I pushed, I'll be transparent. I pushed Brad and said, let's just do it. Let's just do it on the show. I was like, what should we do? Well, I want to do guests. Well, let's just do it let's just make the show about how we build the show. And thank you, Brad, for jumping in. And then obviously we adjusted our approach a little bit to pull out the bigger ideas here for everybody else, which are, how do you create design criteria for something that you haven't done before? How do you identify what's important to you and then use that to guide yourself going forward? These things, and then identifying that some things are bigger than others. These are some things we'd like to talk about. Some of them are really big, 3 words, but that could Brad saying can of worms. Ultimately, what we're trying to do here is this, and then all of these things should be serving our mission and our vision, right? Just like any other organization. Vision, mission, values, everything that we do should be serving those things. And if it's not, check it's off the list. And so therefore, I think it's good also, because what we try to do is teach by doing. I appreciate that you're saying you're uncomfortable.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice. Well,
because you got to, that's, well, okay. Check mark for transparency. Like, you calling it out. That's, we're going to have to lead by example if we're going to do this.
Hey, and that's like, there's stories that will come out this year, friends, because we're doing it this way. And Michael knows all of these stories. And so, yeah, this is going to be, there will be certain episodes, I think, this year that we run that are going to make you feel like I am Michael Scott on The Office when I describe these things to you. Just saying.
We're going to want to change the channel and like get that, awkward, uncomfortable thing. Cool.
Yes. But I think that's important, right? Like,
absolutely. That's transparency.
If you're a high achiever, like if you're somebody who feels similar to either me or Michael, these are going to be topics that you want somebody to talk about, but nobody's willing to talk about. Like we're pushing the envelope to be even a little sketchier, just in general.
Ooh. Even more.
I think.
I love it.
Even more. I don't know if that's possible. The only thing that could get sketchier is my drawing or my art.
Elizabeth, did he put the air quotes up when he said art? I wasn't looking. Did he?
I don't need to. They just exist.
Sketchy ideas now even more sketchy. I love it.
All right. On that note, hey, we've hit our 2:00 time.
Yep.
If this was helpful for you today, friends, do me a favor. If you're listening to it on your favorite podcast platform, take a screenshot, share it with your friends. If you want to stay tuned, we're going to keep diving into this. I think all of January is going to be doing this, and then we're going to start executing it as well towards the end of the month, and then you begin to see the results in February. And so stay tuned. This will be a good little series for all of you. But we do want feedback on this. We want to know if this is helpful or not, because if there are certain things that we need to dive deeper in, if you give us feedback, as you know, we will pivot and go deeper into it the next week, but only if we get the feedback. If we don't get the feedback, then we won't do it.
It's true.
So
let us know. You know how to reach out.
Yeah.
Hit us up. Let Elizabeth know. Send an email to info@sketchyideashow.com. Hit us on any of the platforms where you're listening and or watching to us right now. And we hope to see you back here again next week, where we explore another sketchy idea live and in the open. And remember, just because it's a sketchy idea doesn't mean it's not worth exploring. We'll see you next time.
Take care.